right, so here we go. Here is the project that inspired me for today's project. If you are on my email list, this is one of the color combo projects that I sent out for you earlier this week. It has these beautiful wintry colors, balmy blue, misty moonlight, Highland heather, and Pacific Point. Actually, just the three, I tossed in Pacific Point for today's project. Hey Sandy, thank you for joining me. So here's the project that I shared with you on the email list. Here is the project that I'm going to share with you today. It features my new favorite color combo, and it also includes a couple of great techniques. Always fun for the projects, and then I'm going to have some alternatives to share with you because this does take a little bit of time, a little bit of technique, not a lot. Very easy to reproduce. I don't want to scare you off. You know what my measuring stick is, that if I can do it, you can do it. So this little card, it's hard to know whether or not you're getting a good look at it. It features, of course, the cute Freezin Fun stamp set and the coordinating framelits. It also features the Snowflake Wishes that's in the same catalog. This is coming from the mini, and I took the color combo, I kind of condensed it off the offering in the Snowflake Splendor suite. So all the soft blues and heathers, the watery feel that I'm borrowing from the Snowflake suite. But I took just three of the colors from the swatch in the Snowflake Splendor suite. So I'm pulling out Balmy Blue, Highland Heather, Misty Moonlight, and as I said, today's project is also going to toss in Pacific Point. I'm also featuring the Winter Snow embossing folder that's in the same suite. And then of course here on page 69 is the Freezin Fun bundle. Too cute. One of my favorites in the holiday catalog. So those are the stamp sets and coordinating cutting tools and the embossing tool that I'm using. And you know me, I like to save a little bit of time so you don't have to watch me do some of the manual labor. This is just a 4 by 5 1/4 Whisper White cardstock that has been soft embossed using that folder in the Snowflake Splendor suite. So I've got that to share with you, and you can see that that's in my background. I'm going to share with you a little technique I used to make it sparkle a little bit. All right, I'm seeing some of my friends on here. Make sure you post a comment so I know you're here. I've done a little bit of heat embossing. You can see the white snowflakes in the background. There has been some die cutting that's been pre-done for you. And the way I got the color on this background, I'm calling it the spritzing watercolor technique. So really fun. I've got that Highland Heather in here, the Pacific Point, some shimmery effect for it, and those cute little critters from the Freezin Fun stamp set. So to recreate this project, let me share with you what our materials are going to be. My card base is the heavyweight Whisper White cardstock. I just shared with you that 4 by 5 1/4 inch Whisper White that has been soft embossed using that Snowflake folder. And I have a small rectangle of Highland Heather. It measures 4 3/8. Let me measure it up for you. 4 3/8 by 3 3/8. I've got a piece of watercolor paper that measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I've pre-cut the little snow mound from the coordinating dies. And I've got my little critters here already stamped and cut. So I've got that cute little penguin. I've got this skiing bunny. I have the little snowboard. And I pre-stamped the sentiment all on white. I'm going to be sharing with you how I colored that as well. So let's get started. I'm going to take away my card base, and I'm going to start off by sharing the background that I created for the card. It's got a snowy feel to it, and it's kind of hard sharing on screen. The entire snowflake background has some shimmer and shine to it that I created by spritzing it, and I'll share with you how I made that spritz. So I'm using the spritzers, and in the spritzer I combined some rubbing alcohol, and I just filled it like 3/4 of the way through. So rubbing alcohol, and I'm using some of the frost white shimmer paint. So I put both of those things into the spritzer, and I'm just going to spritz it. And I'm going to warn you though, this can get a little bit messy. You want to have control, and I'm going to cover my surface even more because it can kind of spread out. So one of the tips I like to do, because it can spray out of control, first of all, shake it up really nicely so that you mix up that alcohol with the shimmer paint. And then I'm always looking where the little pierce is for the spray. That's the way I want to point my finger. So trying to be really precise on where I'm shooting this, and I'm going to come up from quite a distance. So I'm probably about 12 inches up, and I'm just going to squirt, and I'm going to be kind of generous with it because I do love the shimmer. So it's kind of like giving you an all over shimmery effect. Really easy with just some rubbing alcohol and that shimmer paint in our spritzer. And I'm going to set that aside to dry while we're working on the other elements of our card. So I shared with you how I did the background. This is actually watercolor paper, and what I've done is stamp and emboss with those snowflakes. Not sure if you can see, it's just stamped with Versamark. And then I put the white embossing powder, and I actually heat set it for you, so you don't have to watch me do that. But now I'm going to add that watercolor background to it. And I'm going to be using also one of the spritzers, so I'm going to leave my paper, my protecting paper down, and I'm going to take a spritzer. This one I've mixed rubbing alcohol as well, and I've put in about 3 or 4 drops of Pacific Point. And here's where I bring in that other color in my color combo, because I wanted something really bright and vibrant, something that really made these little critters stand out. So we've got a nice snowy background with a vibrant Pacific Point coloring. And same thing, I'm going to look to see where that pierce is and make sure that my finger is pointing right in that direction so I can have a little bit of control. And I'm going to spritz. And I want to be kind of generous with this because I want a lot of color. There we go. And you're going to see now I've got that color on there to kind of help it along. I'm going to take my heat gun, and I'm just going to dry this off a little bit. It's okay if there are water droplets on it. That actually gives it a pretty cool effect. You can see how the white embossing is resisting the ink, which gives it, again, a really cool effect. And you guys know these Freezin Fun critters are one of my favorites. I think I've shared with you a couple of different projects using them already. And I'm just going to kind of dry it off. You can see there are going to be watermarks, but that adds to the effect. So no worries that you have little white blotches in there or some heavy blue watermarks. It just adds to that watercolor effect. And there we go, I've dried that off. And so here's where I'm going to kind of look back and see, is it vibrant enough for me? Because I can go ahead and do another inking at this point. There are a few areas that I want more color, so I'm going to go ahead and spritz some more. And again, being really careful that I've got my finger pointing the right direction. And I'm going to give it a couple more sprays. There we go. And dry that off. And I'll tell you another tip that I had as I was stamping my background with the Versamark and the snowflakes. It is really difficult to see where I have stamped. So what I do is I stamp the 3 larger snowflakes from the stamp set. Then I went ahead and poured my white embossing powder on. I didn't heat set, but the embossing powder helped me see where I had already stamped. That gave me a guide of where to fill in with the smaller snowflakes on the background. All right, so much better. I'm pretty happy with that coloring now. I'm going to take away my spritzed paper. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and just get a paper towel and remove any extra. There we go. And I'm always wondering if you can see well enough. So it's got that nice watercolor, those water spots on there. There's some light areas, but again, that's kind of like how the sky would look on a nice snowy day, as if we would know here in Southern California, right? All right, so I've got my background done. I went ahead and pre-cut also that snowy slope that comes from the Freezin Fun dies. When you open it up, one of the cutting tools is this long stitched slope, and I just took a piece of Whisper white cardstock about 4 1/4 wide, maybe 1 1/4 inch high, and I just cut that slope on there with the die, and you're going to see that sweet stitching for that slope. I don't know what it is about these stitch dies, but I just love the look of the stitching on the paper. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that snowy slope, and I'm using my Tombow liquid glue. I say it every week. This is my favorite adhesive. We always get along, unlike that Stampin' Seal, and today I was not getting along with the Stampin' Seal Plus. I love the Stampin' Seal Plus, but for some reason today it was just kind of eating my paper and I was getting frustrated. So I'm just going to stick with who I know is loyal. This mono adhesive always works for me. So I've got a nice little slope there. I'm going to go ahead and mount this onto my Highland Heather mat, and there's my color combination, that beautiful watery blue with that nice vibrant heather, really soft and pretty, makes for a wintry feel. These certainly are non-traditional Christmas colors, but I love it. It's perfect for these little fun critters. And I'm just going to have about a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around, and you can see how that brings out all of the colors there. So what do you think so far? I love that Pacific Point blue, and remember that's going to be layered atop my snowflake embossed layer that was spritzed with the shimmer paint, and that's going to be flat adhered as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Take care of that way it's drying off while I'm coloring the critters for you. And I have to say, each one of these little critters in this set are just adorable. There's the penguin, the bunny, there's a seal, there's some snowballs. Really fun elements for the cards. And I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to use my bone folder to burnish that down, make sure it's sticking evenly. There we go. So I've got my background layer. Now I'm going to bring in my little critters, and I'm going to be coloring them with my blends. And I'm pretty much using the same color scheme. So I've got my balmy blue, I've got my misty moonlight, my Highland Heather, I've got light and dark smoky slate, let's see, dark mango melody, I have also dark petal pink, and just in case I have my trusty color lifter nearby. So I'm going to start off with the bunny first. I'm going to go ahead and take, let's see, I'm going to take my balmy blue, and I am coloring the skis balmy blue, and I'm using my pen tip just because it's a little bit easier to get into these smaller areas. There we go. Nice long skis. and they're going to have a pop of color with their scarves. So balmy blue for the skis, then I'm going to bring in that Highland Heather, and both the bunny and the penguin have a Highland Heather scarf. Again, I'm using the pen tool. And penguin has a Highland Heather scarf as well. Kind of little squiggly marks. There we go. Fill in that color. So they both have their scarves done. The bunny has a sweet little petal pink nose, using the pen tip for that. And penguin has the Mango Melody beak, pen tip as well. Now I'm going to bring in the light smoky slate, and the bunny's poles are going to be smoky slate all the way up and around. He also has little straps on his skis. And then the penguin has smoky slate feet. Not sure, maybe they should have been Mango Melody. What do you think? What color are the feet on penguins? I should have checked before I made my card. Too funny. Okay, so I've got smoky slate there. I'm going to come in with my dark smoky slate and color up the fur for the penguin in dark smoky slate. I'm using the brush tip now. Just tiny, tiny spots of color. Just being careful. There are a few little tight areas. I don't want to bring in too much color. And then, there we go, one of his arms. All right, his hat is going to be Misty Moonlight, so I'm going to bring that in, color up his hat. And he does have one little curl peeking from under his little ski hat. I'm going to go ahead and color that gray. There we go. And I'm going to come in with the light smoky slate and add a little bit of color to the white pom-pom on his hat. Just a tiny bit. There we go. Pretty easy to color. Not a lot. I'm going to make sure all the pieces are released from the die cuts. There we go. And then the snowboard has just a tiny bit of watery blue shadowing going on. I'm using the pen tip to kind of bring down, outline the bottom and bring in a little bit of color to the top. There we go. And now just to put them on the wintry scene. And I am using Stampin' Up! Dimensionals for the critters. So just one on the back for the bunny. He is at the top of the slope coming down. I'm going to put the snowboard down with a glue dot. That's going to be flat adhered, but it's really easy to manage with just one little glue dot on here. And let's see, it's coming up. And the penguin is kind of balancing with one foot on that snowboard. There we go. Looks like he's having fun. All right, so my sentiment I took exactly from the stamp set as well. Just says sending warmth your way. And I wanted to split that up. I like the sentiments broken up a little bit. So I'm going to trim this down. And I'm going to trim it as tight as I can. I'm just hand snipping just right up as close as I can get to the descending letters. And then flip it over and do the top. And I'm going to trim off one of the words so I can stack the sentiments. So sending on top and then warmth your way down below. And I'm going to use my glue dots for that. And really easy to adhere with that dot. And I always like it kind of wonky. I don't really go for precise alignment, just my style. And I don't like to fret over it being perfectly straight. So sending warmth your way. What do you think? It's almost done. I just, of course, need to adhere it to a card base. My base is going to be the Whisper White. This is the heavyweight cardstock, which is what you want for your card base. The layered embossed snowflake was just regular weight Whisper White because you don't want to be adding heavy layers. So I'm going to use that, and you know what, I have a little bit of a stain there, so I'm going to use this side. I am just going to use my Tombow liquid glue to get that on there. And just add some there. So sending warmth your way with the Freezin Fun pals. There we go. There's my card with the heat embossing and the spritzing watercolor technique. My two cards. They look a little bit different, so every card is going to look differently because of the spritzing going on. So it looks like I sprayed a little bit heavier on my second one. But I don't know. What do you think? Give me a comment. Is this a project you would try? Again, with the Freezin Fun and the Snowflake Wishes. My new favorite color combo, the Highland Heather, Balmy Blue, Misty Moonlight, and today, of course, I added Pacific Point. Used lots of shimmer point and my spritzing bottles to get this look. So let me share with you a couple of other examples using the same color combo. I have also a softer version with the Snowy Wishes, and again, the Balmy Blue, the Highland Heather, and that's about it for this. I did use the shimmer spritzing as well, and I actually used some of the die cuts from the Snowflake Splendor bundle, and I cut them in Purple Posy. So Purple Posy is a great coordinating color for the Highland Heather. It's got a really nice soft look to it, and the Snowy Wishes was created with the Playful Alphabet, and I did use that cool dimensional sheet to cut all my letters, made it really easy. I stitched die cut the little rectangle, and this one has been mounted on Purple Posy, making it a much softer look. So there's another card. Of course, let's see, I've kind of lost my original card. Don't see it on my tabletop. You know how things get lost here. I'm not finding it. But I do have one more to show you. There it is right there. Same color scheme. I have one more to show you, and you can give me your vote. So this is the exact same layout, same wintry scene with the Freezin Pals. There's one difference here, and I show you this alternative because I know some people are a little reluctant to spend more time on a card or try some of the other techniques. The background in this card is actually just designer series paper. So we have our DSP. This is the Snowflake Splendor designer series paper. All I did was take one of the sheets and I created the same sort of background with the paper versus the heat embossing and spritzing technique. What do you think? Do you think it's worth the effort? I love heat embossing. I love the magic of seeing that powder melt. If I was to reproduce and make many of these cards, I would go with the DSP that's already done. Hey Leslie, welcome in. Thank you. If you do choose the designer series paper option, please remember today or tomorrow's the last day for the sale on that paper, so you want to get in on that deal before tomorrow. Again, it's easier to mass produce with the designer series paper. Okay, so that is it. Those are the projects using my favorite color combo of the week. And of course, my favorite critters from the Freezin Fun bundle. Please leave me a comment. Tell me which one is your